A Chinese ghost story.
The wind carried the scent of rain and dying leaves. Ening Kachin tugged the worn strap of his satchel higher on his shoulder, his boots squelching in the mud of the path. He was a collector of debts, not of courage, and this remote village of Qinghe was the last stop on a ledger full of desperate names. He preferred the safe, dusty confines of county archives to the wild, whispering woods that now loomed before him. By the time he'd finished his business, the sun was a bruised purple behind the mountain peaks. The villagers, their faces pinched with a fear they wouldn't name, refused him lodging. "The inn is full," one said, not meeting his eyes. "Best be on the road before the dark sets in," another muttered, slamming his door. Left with no choice, Ening was swallowed by the forest. The path dissolved into root-choked tangles, and the skeletal branches of ancient trees clawed at the sky. Desperate and shivering, he stumbled upon a crumbling archway. Beyond it, a dilapidated temple loomed, its painted guardians long since faded to ghosts. It was drafty and smelled of damp earth and incense, but it was shelter. He gathered kindling and with shaking hands coaxed a small fire to life in a brazier he found in a side hall. The flames pushed back the shadows just enough for him to feel a sliver of safety. As he warmed his hands, a sound, soft as moth wings, came from the main hall. A faint, silvery light, not from his fire, flickered within. His heart hammered against his ribs, a trapped bird. "Who's there?" he called, his voice a pathetic squeak. A figure emerged from the gloom. It was a girl, dressed in white, her face luminous in the darkness. She looked as startled as he felt. I am also seeking shelter from the cold," she whispered, her voice like the trickle of a hidden stream. "I meant no intrusion." Her name was Zyrokian. She was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at, with eyes that held a depth of sadness no living person should possess. As they talked by the fire, Ening forgot the cold, forgot his fear. She spoke of poetry, of the loneliness of the mountains. He, in turn, spoke of his small, orderly life in the city, a life that now seemed impossibly distant. When he woke at dawn, curled by the ashes of the fire, she was gone. For a moment, he thought it had all been a dream, until he saw the faint, lingering scent of orchids on his sleeve. His relief at finding the village was short-lived. He was recounting his night in the haunted temple to a gawking crowd when a gruff voice cut through their chatter. "You stayed in the Lan Ruo temple, and you're still breathing." The speaker was a swarthy man with a gourd of wine in one hand and a sword of worn, ancient wood strapped to his back. He introduced himself as Yan Chixia, a Taoist swordsman. His laughter was a booming, genuine sound, but his eyes were sharp as flint. "Ghosts and demons, my friend. The temple is their hunting ground. The girl you met, no mortal woman is that pale, that perfect. You were lucky she didn't drain your yang energy." Enning's blood turned to ice. Fear, cold and absolute, flooded him. He thought of her sad eyes, her gentle voice. Was it all a trick, a trap? That night, a war raged within him, the terror of the unknown versus the haunting memory of her face. The terror won, but the memory was stronger. Gripping a charm Yan had given him, he crept back to the temple. He found her in the main hall, a silhouette against the moon. As he watched, she knelt by a gaping hole in the floor where an old coffin lay exposed, her form shimmering, translucent. There was no malice in her, only a profound, aching sorrow. When she sensed him, she didn't attack. She just looked at him, her eyes pleading. You know," she whispered. "It wasn't a question." "Yes," his voice was hoarse, "but I don't understand." She told him her story then, her words spilling out like water from a cracked vessel. A beautiful girl, waylaid and murdered by bandits decades ago. Her parents, in their grief, had given her a simple burial at the foot of a great scholar tree, a site of no spiritual merit. The tree's roots had grown around her bones, and a demon, the tree demoness, had taken root there as well, enslaving her soul. Each night, Zyrokian was forced to lure travelers to the temple so the demoness could feed on their life force. "I have brought death to so many," she sobbed, her tears turning to motes of light that vanished before they touched the ground. "I would rather face the 10 courts of hell than continue this." Enning's fear was gone, replaced by a fierce, protective tenderness. He took her cold, insubstantial hand in his. "Then we will find another way." He ran to Yan Chixia, not as a frightened client, but as a desperate friend. "You have to help her," he pleaded. "She's a victim, not a monster." Yan sighed, his face grim. A soul enslaved by a millennia-old demon, that's not a haunting, boy, that's a war. But he saw the fire in Enning's eyes and agreed. That night they returned. The air around the scholar tree crackled with malevolence. The demoness emerged, a towering figure of gnarled wood and serpentine roots, her voice a shriek of tearing bark. Yan's sword, wreathed in golden light, carved through her tendrils, but for every one he severed, two more grew. A root as thick as a man's arm shot from the ground, catching Yan in the chest and sending him flying. Defeated and bleeding, he could only watch as the demoness's laughter filled the forest. "For your betrayal," the demoness hissed, her voice a venomous whisper aimed at Xyrokian, who watched in horror from the temple's steps. A tendril of black smoke lashed out, wrapping around her spectral form. "You will know true darkness." With a shriek of pure anguish, Xyrokian was ripped from the world, vanishing into the earth. No, Enning's scream was raw, tearing from his throat. He fell to his knees, clawing at the dirt where she had disappeared. Yan helped him away, his own face etched with failure. "It's done, my friend. Her soul is banished to the underworld. There is no return from that." But Enning refused to accept it. For days, he was a ghost himself, haunting Yan's doorstep, his grief a palpable thing. Finally, Yan relented. "Your love is a force even the dead cannot ignore. I know a forbidden ritual. It will cost me years of my cultivation, and we will have only until the first cock crow." Enning agreed without a second thought. They went to a high mountain pass as the moon reached its zenith. Yan drew complex diagrams on the ground with his sword, his face beaded with sweat. He chanted, and the very air began to twist, a shimmering portal opening onto a gray, lightless landscape. "Go, find her, and hurry." Enning plunged into the underworld. It was a realm of wind and ash, filled with the ceaseless, mournful wails of the dead. He searched through the thronging spirits, calling her name, his voice a fragile beacon in the eternal dark. He found her huddled by the banks of the river of forgetfulness, a tiny, broken figure. When she saw him, her face crumpled. "You came for me," she breathed, a universe of disbelief and hope in those 4 words. They held each other, two souls defying the laws of heaven and earth. But as they clung together, a faint, crimson glow began to seep into the gray sky. The first crow of a rooster, distant and shrill, pierced the underworld. Xyrokian's form began to flicker, becoming more transparent. "You have to go," she cried. "No, not without you," he shouted, holding her tighter. "There is a way," Yan's voice echoed from the portal, strained and urgent. "Her bones, rebury them, on the crest of a hill, facing the sunrise. It's the only thing that can sever the demoness's hold and give her soul peace." Enning looked at Xyrokian, memorizing her face. "I will find you," he promised. "Wait for me." He burst back through the portal as it snapped shut behind him, Yan collapsing from exhaustion. There was no time to rest. Enning raced back to the temple, dug through the night, and carefully gathered her fragile bones from the gnarled roots of the demon's tree. The demoness, weakened from her battle with Yan, could only hiss impotently from the shadows as he worked. He carried the bundle in his arms as if it were the most precious thing in the world, climbing the highest hill as the first hints of gray touched the eastern sky. He found a spot where the hill crest met the horizon, a place of clean wind and open sky, and gently, reverently, reburied her. When the task was done, he pulled a single joss stick from his satchel. It was the only offering he had. He lit it, the thin trail of smoke rising straight up into the paling sky. He knelt in the damp grass, clasped his hands, and prayed. He didn't pray to any god or spirit. He simply spoke to her, telling her she was free, that she was loved, that he would remember her until his own dying day. Behind him, Yan Chixia stood as a silent, solemn witness, watching not a ghost, but a man saying goodbye to the woman he loved as the sun crested the hill and painted the world in hues of gold.